Sometime in my 50s, I became invisible to men. Here's what I didn't expect to feel. Now, to be fair, at least in this article, as we're about to see, this Whammons takes it a lot better than a bunch of others did in similar articles that I've been covering. But a lot of it's cope. I started to have to say hello at the register to get the cashier's attention. This is it. I thought I've become invisible. Yeah, so the wall is basically optical camouflage. Now, I didn't notice at first. It's hard to sense the lack of something, like when you didn't realize your headache is gone until an hour after it starts to recede. Actually, you know what? Here's a better analogy. How about how long would it take you guys to notice that you don't have oxygen anymore? You think you'd be able to notice within like 30, 40 minutes that you ran out of oxygen? Yeah, you'd notice that pretty quick, wouldn't you? It's not like I'd ever been a head turner, reasonably attractive by whose standards. I've never stood out in ways that make people either excited or uncomfortable, but I was pleasing enough and pleasant enough that I'd gather grins and glances. Yeah, people had to be polite. But somewhere in my early 50s, people just stopped noticing me. Yeah, you're just one of the guys now, unfortunately. I started to have to say hello at the register to get the cashier's attention. As I repeated my coffee order, I could see their eyes moving past me, lighting on younger, bolder, more interesting people. Like, yeah, whatever, boomer. I want to get to the more interesting customers. Yep. This is it, I thought. I've become invisible. Hey, this is what you wanted, though, right? You're sick of being catcalled. You're sick of guys telling you to smile, giving you attention. This is a good thing. Now, I used to be visible. The attention I got from men ranged from appreciative smiles to flirting to catcalls that often turned to anger when I didn't react the way they wanted. It could be nice until it wasn't, and it was tricky to see the line until it had been crossed. No, I guess you could do like the whole boiling the frog analogy here. This could be similar. If it happens gradually enough, it could be hard to notice. Some guys flirted. It felt sweet and sexy and fun. Others just gave me the creeps. So literally, the guys were doing the same thing, except the first group of guys she found attractive and the second one she didn't. The same behavior from different men could feel very different. Yeah, exactly what I just said, which made navigating these encounters tricky. Constant vigilance is exhausting. At least you had enough self-awareness to point this out. And sometimes I just didn't want to be bothered. I wanted to go about my business without being sized up by entitled men who act as if you've been placed on earth to please them, and that you should be grateful when they deign to notice you. Oh, you're never gonna have to worry about that again. Don't worry about it. No, it'll be fine. So Google Whammons 50 and invisible, and you'll get two kinds of results. The first will tell you that, yes, it's true, Whammons stopped being noticed in middle age. I would say around maybe 35, but that's just me. The next will give you all kinds of advice for beating the odds by staying relevant. Not surprisingly, that means staying relevant to men, the arbiters of power and bestowers of good fortune. You don't have to. You could just walk away. So I grew up with casual sexism as well as all those other isms. I learned early on that I was expected to smile, to prevaricate and laugh along with misogynist jokes. My intrinsic pleaser fought with my internal rebel. I twinkled, I raged. Sounds like a pleasant person to be around, huh? She's literally admitting that her entire pleasant personality is an act. I wanted the male gaze and I hated it. I was ready for love, ready for sex, and I wanted boys to notice me. But in order to be seen, I had to run the gauntlet of male cruelty. I've been busty since 16. A healthy set of lungs, said Paul. I like your shirt, especially the front, said Blaine. Hey, can I hold those for you? They look pretty heavy. Jokes about my period, comments on my body, razor thin line to walk between being a prude and a slut. Honestly, I wouldn't wish female adolescence on anyone. Actually, that's a lie. There's a lot of men who would benefit from being forced into a Freaky Friday situation with a teenage girl. All right. I remember sitting in my freshman dorm room with a guy who would become my first serious boyfriend. We were listening to music, my music. Lou Reed came on, and my soon to be paramour asked, "Do you know who this is?" And did I answer then as I would now? Yeah, I made this tape. I did not. Well, that's on you. Yeah, that's literally on you. I paused, shy, suddenly worried that Walk on the Wild Side might indeed be sung by someone I couldn't identify. At 19, I was constantly second guessing myself, worrying about the way I was perceived. I mean, if you're trying to attract other people's attention, this is the norm, yes. And that's the black beating heart of it. The boys could tank my self-confidence with a word. How did they do it? They seemed to be endowed by their creator with a sense of self-assurance that I couldn't muster. That must be what it is to walk the earth as a man. No, this is just you having flaws as an individual. Like, do you really think that every single man is walking around with self-assurance and extreme confidence? Oh, hell no. Hell no. There's plenty of guys with zero self-confidence whatsoever. Just like how there's plenty of women out there who think their shit don't stink. No, this isn't a men versus women thing. This is all you. You are the problem. And you see people that don't have the same problems as you, and you just don't want to come to the conclusion that it might be you. It's so exhausting to be a women's in the world. Yeah, just tell that to that woman who lived as a man for a year and ended up having to go to therapy afterwards and eventually Minecrafted herself. Tell that to her. Yeah, and it can still be scary, still requires vigilance, but I no longer feel that I'm being constantly evaluated, and that's a huge relief. No, so what you should instead be considering is, why did you care so much that you were being evaluated in the past? There are very few people in my life whose opinions I care about. That if I saw that they were looking at me negatively, I'd actually think, like, do I have to change something? Like, what do I have to do to make them stop? Like, there's very few, and it's all people that, like, my family members that I have to deal with, like coworkers, my boss, like people whose opinion of me has a direct impact on my life in some way. But that's not the vast majority of people. Like, if I'm walking down the street and some stranger is giving me the stink eye, do you think I give a fuck? No, I barely notice them most of the time. But if I look and I see someone's giving me the stink eye, I guess I check if my fly is open or if my shoe's untied or if I got a kick me sign stuck to my back or something. Okay. Look, no fashion faux pas or anything here. All right, I guess that guy's just a piece of shit. And then I move on like I normally would. Stop caring what strangers who have no effect on your life think of you. I have so much more space in my head. Well, yeah, because there's nothing filling it. This is obvious. Other people's opinions have become less important over time in general. See, you do realize this. Like, that is the root of your problem. You cared too much what irrelevant people thought of you. And that's all on you. Like, other people can't force you to care. But when you're not being watched, you've got more space in which to observe. And what I saw was an enormous amount of people whose opinions don't matter in the least. If only you realized this when you were 19, you would have been so much happier when you're 50. Like, no joke. Because, yeah, no, she's not wrong. Like, this whole paragraph, this is true. Other people's opinions become less important. Enormous number of people whose opinions don't matter in the least. If you saw this, like, if you just realized this sooner, like, that's the tragedy of articles like this. They eventually come to the correct conclusion decades after it's too late to act on it. Now, here's what I've learned. All right, let's see if you actually learned anything. People who love you think you're beautiful. They care about your feelings. They're interested in what you have to say. Those who ignore me don't matter to me. Their opinions don't count. I decide if I'm relevant or interesting or valuable, not them. That's partially true. Yes. Yeah, that is true. Now, those who ignore me don't matter to me. That's good. Their opinions don't count. That's good too. Now, this line requires a caveat. I decide if I'm relevant or interesting or valuable, not them. Bullshit. No, that's every individual person decides if every other individual person is relevant, interesting, or valuable to them. This is all relative. One person could find you relevant or interesting or valuable. Someone else, well, you don't matter to me. Your opinions don't count. Now, if you're living in a fucking vacuum by yourself and you think you're relevant and interesting and valuable, more power to you, I guess. But this attitude just it leads to so many people having too high of an opinion of themselves. Like they value themselves super highly, which I mean, they are the most important person in their life, so that makes sense. And they don't get when no one else does. You need to realize, like, yeah, you might value yourself as the most important person in the world because you are to yourself, but that's not going to be true to everyone around you. In fact, to some people, you might have negative value. And what I mean by that, think back, everyone listening right now. I'm sure all of you have multiple people you could think of that, well, if this person didn't exist, my life would be better. That's what I mean by negative value. Your existence makes someone else's life worse. Now, does that mean you're a horrible person? No, because to somebody else, your existence makes their life better, right? It's all relative. So your opinion is not the only one that matters. Now, again, there's a caveat here. If you care about the opinions of these other people, then your opinion is not the only one that matters. If you've already decided that they don't matter to you and their opinions don't count, then stop even thinking about them. Just move on. So I'm embracing middle age with its pains and surprises. Well, actually, fuck, you're 50. That doesn't count as middle age anymore. You're fucking ancient. So do I wish I looked the way I did at 30? Well, sure, I'm human. Why would you pick 30? Like, fuck, man, I'd want to look the way I looked when I was like 22. But it doesn't torment me. That's the mirror I want to please, not the marketplace. A few years ago, I bought my teenage daughter's t-shirts that say women don't owe you shit. It's everything I wanted to tell the world when I was 17. Only the world didn't want to hear that from me. And guess what? The world doesn't want to hear that from your daughters either. You're not doing them any favors. Like if they go out wearing those shirts, that's just going to make sure that they're only ever going to be some dude's one night stand. Like they're going to be the pump and dump. It's like, oh yeah, she's one of those feminists. I mean, she's hot enough. I'll get her in bed once or twice and then move on. At 57, oh God. So that's closer to 60 than 50. You're basically 60, man. I've simply ceased to care. If you ceased to care at 27, you would have been so much happier. Sure, there's a little disappointment to feeling like I'm no longer interesting. Spoiler alert, you weren't interesting at 19 either, but guys pretended like you were because they wanted to get in your pants. But on balance, it's such a relief to walk down the street carelessly, not be braced for unwanted attention. No one invades my personal space. If these are her legitimate feelings and she's not just saying it to feel good about herself, then congratulations, I guess. But something tells me you wouldn't be writing an article like this if that was the case, though. And no one has told me to smile in at least a decade. Well, it wouldn't really change much, would it? It really wouldn't change much. Turns out I like flying under the radar. There's a lot of extremely cool whammons hanging out with me down here, all of us equally invisible. And that, at last, is a group whose opinions I'm truly interested in. And let me guess, you all sit around talking about the same things you covered in this article, like clearly still dwelling on it while claiming it doesn't matter anymore? Now, this is one of the legitimate criticisms that like that women and feminazis leverage against a lot of MGTOW. Like, well, you say you're over women, yet that's literally all you ever talk about. Yeah, that's a legitimate criticism, but it goes both ways. Like, all these old women claim they're over men, and yet like the penis envy was so strong in this article. Now, instead of writing articles like this, why aren't you out enjoying your hobbies or something? Like that's what I want to know.